The Arizona Cardinals are okay. They get a passing grade through 3 weeks. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter, Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So far, so good for the Cardinals. They get a passing grade. I alluded to it a little bit yesterday with pretty much one sentence. I'm going to expound upon it for a full segment to kick off. Was the run game mishap kind of a fluke from last week? Was that more Detroit than it was the Cardinals' run game, run scheme, run talent? We'll discuss that. And can the defense continue to keep the team afloat when the offense is 3 and outing or not getting conversions on fourth down like we saw last week? It's going to be a good show. Crossover Thursday with David Harrison from Locked On Commanders on Thursday. That's going to be a fun one. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So the sentence I said yesterday, as pertaining to the Detroit Lions game specifically, but it is kind of a microcosm of the season as a whole so far through 3 weeks for the Cardinals, is the good isn't as good as it seems, and the bad definitely isn't as bad as it seems. And that's okay. I think the good outlier was week 2. If we remove that and the Cardinals started 0-2 going into week 3, if that game against the Rams didn't exist, you would still look at this team with some positive infused into it, even though they'd be 0-2. We've seen enough predominantly from the defense that lends you to think this team may be better quicker than we thought. Going into the season, I thought the Cardinals were going to win 6 games, maybe 7 games, maybe, and then really go gung-ho in 2025. And while that's a tough pill for people to swallow because it's a little bit of a slower ramp up than you'd want after Kyler Murray tears his ACL mid-season 2022, it's been kind of a sludge since then to watch this team. And aside from their 7-0 and 10-2 start, in 2021, it wasn't that great before that. So it's like, what are you waiting for? Why isn't this being forced? Why isn't the issue, not forced, why isn't the issue being pressed upon to make this happen sooner? But when you look at the season so far this year, it's palatable. It's a passing grade. Give it a B-. I don't think that's bad. And that's not on a curve. That is just in a vacuum. How have the Cardinals played? You give it a B-. And that's obviously including week 2. But all the games have been one-score games in their losses. It was more execution by the Cardinals on the defensive side of the ball in week 1 and on the offensive side of the ball in week 3 that held them back from getting dubs. But they were in games in the fourth quarter against 2 of the predominant quote-unquote powerhouses of the NFL right now, because there are so very few powerhouses right now. There's a lot of bad football being played. And the Cardinals went toe-to-toe. And I think that while it's not a green ribbon ceremony, it's not something that can be overlooked in the sense where it's like, oh, that doesn't mean anything. It does. The metrics for the Cardinals are irrespective of the metrics for the other 31 teams. This is solely predicated upon the timeline for the Cardinals. You don't compare that to other teams. Everybody's got their own stuff. Everybody's on a different part of the timeline in an effort to become a team that's perpetually relevant. And through 3 weeks, the Cardinals defense, 9 sacks, pretty good. The run game was okay aside from last week. And Marvin Harrison Jr. has 3 touchdown catches in 2 games. Kyler Murray is one of the more efficient quarterbacks in the NFL through 3 weeks. And you've got to look at the big picture through 3 weeks. Obviously, that's kind of an oxymoron. And it's not even a could be a lot worse scenario. This is okay where they are. And part of the reason why is they've tasted what 3-0 could have been if a couple tweaks were made. Now, Josh Allen is just on a tear. Does this every year. First 10 weeks, best quarterback we've ever seen. And then, it could have been Jacksonville, what the Cardinals went through in week 1. What Jacksonville went through last night. It wasn't. Cardinals are up 17-3. Yes, week 1, crapshoot. Week 2, banged up team. Week 3, against the first opponent that is healthy, even though they had myriad injuries during the game. They blanked them in the second half. One of the more high-powered offenses in the NFL, they blanked them. That's why it's a balancing act trying to figure out where this team is right now. So I kind of laid on the fact that B-. So far, not bad. So far, not incredible. So far, not great. So far, average. And that's taking into account everything. That's not on their own, oh, well, you're grading on a curve because of this. No, just in a blanket or in a vacuum. Fine. They've been fine. Not great. Not bad. Right in the middle. And I think that that's fine. And I know that a lot of fans are just like, let's go, man. You got the money. You need to add pieces. Tomorrow I will be doing my 3 favorite dancing in the clouds trades for the Cardinals. I did post one on Twitter yesterday that made sense, I thought. These aren't going to be, trade for Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be 3. This can help. This team needs capital. This, and bingo bango. So that'll be fun tomorrow. But right now, through 3 weeks, the Cardinals are 1-2. They've gotten some help from the Rams, beating the 49ers last week. Around the NFC, you're starting to see, and this, okay, so let me put it this way. Something that's out of the Cardinals' control, that is making their situation look better. And this is a direct correlative between the Cardinals and the rest of the 15 other NFC teams, is for playoff situation records, like you obviously have to compare them. It's not the plight of different institutions. There's a lot of bad football being played around the NFL. The Cardinals have not played bad football. And the Cardinals are one of the better 1-2 teams out there. There are bad football teams out there. And the Cardinals, this is the worst they're going to be. So you can infuse other teams playing poorly, the future pacing, just the runway for this team with all the young talent, all the money, all the capital, all the stuff. And then look this year, when it's not a completed product, they have not played bad football this year. Couple of key situational things that, yes, obviously need to be tweaked. I mean, that's any team. And I think that's pretty obvious. But they haven't been one of the teams that's played a bad football. And in this 2024, the year of our football gods, that's good. So that's why I say so far, so okay. They get a passing grade B- through 3 weeks, and you'll take it. One of the things that the Cardinals did not execute greatly, did not execute at all, really, against the Lions was the rush attack. 1.9 yards per carry for James Conner. Trey Benson didn't do much, and neither did Amari DiMercato on his 3rd and 1. Unknown to me why that was the play call on 3rd and 1 after an interception last week. Is it a fluke? Was that a blip? Or is that more what we're going to be growing accustomed to throughout the rest of the year? I'll discuss it because it's got long-term ramifications as well as short-term. Next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by LinkedIn. So when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively looking for a job but might be open to the perfect role. Over 70% in any given month of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, another great stat, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So far, so fine. So far, not bad. So far, not bad football like we've seen. Oh, yuck. Week 3 was riddled with it. Riddled with it. And the Cardinals have not played perfect. They have not played their best football. I'm taking week 2 out of it. They have not played their best football, but they're contending with the elites of the NFL. And you couldn't say, that's one thing you couldn't say last year. Aside from absolutely demolishing the Cowboys early on in the season, they got beat by the Ravens. They got beat pretty good by Cincinnati. They got beat pretty good by the 49ers twice. Like, you know, they weren't able to compete. And now they are. And it looks good. It just looks different. It looks like exactly what last year did with more talent this year. And now they just got to put it together. I discussed yesterday a lot about how, listen, if Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray can figure out a rhythm where the passes that Marvin Harrison Jr. is getting thrown aren't just 50-50 balls, and you could find the right routes to run for him to get him going early, to keep defenses honest, to keep them on their heels, that'll open up the rush attack, and that'll get them back in their flow. I think setting up the run by passing to set up the run may be something that they need to look into. But it'll be interesting to see what happens against Washington this weekend. Has a pretty good upfront defense, but the Cardinals can run on it. So it'll be interesting to see if Kyler Murray does throw the ball 30-plus times. But was the run game was the mishap kind of a fluke against Detroit? Maybe. I think what they do against Washington is going to be very telling about what the rest of the season is going to look like regarding play calling, regarding James Conner, regarding Kyler Murray running the ball, etc. And I'm not saying one game. I'm not seeing one game and I'm like, oh, James Conner, everything I said about him is wrong. Stop. That's not what this segment's about. I do think that if the Cardinals were able to have a little bit more balance early on where they're throwing the ball, and they did this. I mean, there were some chunk gains. Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr. had a couple catches over 10-plus yards. Like, being able to do that and get a momentum in the pass game will open up the run, because what I said before the season starts, I still stand by, obviously. Opposing defenses are going to have to choose. You're going to stack the box and play one-on-ones on the outside, or are you going to have a light box and have the Cardinals be able just to run right through it? It seemed like, because the passing game wasn't humming and because there were mistakes made in the inability to extend drives by the Cardinals, namely by going for it on fourth down twice and not getting it instead of taking points, and Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. not being on the right page. Marvin Harrison Jr. should not be catching 50% of the targets thrown to him. So that's a Kyler Murray thing. And they just need to figure it out. It'll be fine. They just need to figure it out. So was the mishap in week 3 a fluke where they were completely inefficient? They could not run the ball against Detroit. Yes. I think it's an exception to the rule and not what we're going to experience. And I think part of that, again, has to do with the pass game doing their job. It's a tug and it's a push and pull, like a lever, push and pull. I don't know. It's a team. The team's got to work together on offense. Passing game has to pull their weight so the run game can run the ball. The one thing that I'm very, very curious to see is, and this is something you don't want to happen, in my opinion. Before the season started, I said, I hope the Cardinals can just run the ball so Kyler Murray doesn't have to. And, he plays his gray area plays where he can get chunk gains, fine. Where he's doing what he does. But if the Cardinals offense gets to a point where they're relying on Kyler Murray running the ball to move the ball down the field, that is code red. That's where the Cardinals were with Cliff for a while. Cliff called a great offensive game last night, by the way. Got to give him kudos for that. If Kyler Murray must achieve over 300 all-purpose yards and 3 touchdowns for the Cardinals to stay relevant and contend every week, that's bad. I don't think it's going to get to that point, but, and I mentioned this yesterday, they need to figure out the perfect percentage of how much Kyler Murray needs to run the ball in an effort to keep opposing defenses honest. Because every time they call a halfback dive or an off tackle that just gains 2 yards, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything to tip the scale. What does is Kyler Murray's RPO and just hitting that off tackle and just gaining 10 yards. That's what keeps, that's right. Kyler Murray can do that. Oh, that's right. We've schemed for this. Oh, that's right. Let's have a spy on him like most teams will. But what that does is it opens up opportunities for Kyler Murray to throw the ball, for other running backs to run the ball. It opens up Pandora's box in an effort to maximize the skill set of this offense. And they didn't run the ball with Kyler Murray at all. And I think a lot of it was, 4 for 45? I think a lot of it, we saw this at least in 2 weeks, that once he takes a hit after running, they don't run the ball anymore. And he took 2 pretty good-sized hits running the ball. One was to his back that looked like it smarted. And it seems like once he gets hit, you don't run the ball. They got to figure it out. Because if they're not going to be effective on the ground with the running backs, Kyler Murray's going to have to run the ball. And they didn't do that at all. And the offense sputtered. And I don't know why that wasn't something. You should have run the ball 5-6 times in the second half. Like if it's out of necessity and you're in the middle of a game and nothing else is working and they're hanging back in coverage, it just takes one. It just takes one first down, 1st and 10, Kyler Murray, whatever it is, quarterback draw. It doesn't need to be anything. It doesn't need to be anything fancy, but it's got to be something that's like, oh, bleep. That's right. I forgot. Kyler Murray has that in his arsenal too. He's just been standing back in the pocket because he's had a lot of time and we forgot momentarily that he can run the ball too. And then it just cracks everything. It opens up things. You do it once, they don't stop, do it again. That's where it was a little clunky in the second half when nothing else was working. Why not look to the best player on the team and just say, go? Not for the entire game, not to carry everything. Just go. I don't really understand it. Locked on Cardinals, your team every day. Can the defense continue its upward trajectory? This is not going to be as fun of a segment as the question would potentially suggest. I'll discuss why next. This episode of Locked on Cardinals is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play. So listen, you're going to get a lot more information so you can make your wagers. You can view live play-by-play in the app. It allows you, again, so much more info so you can be much more informed. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Cardinals open up at around a 3.5-point favorite at home against Washington come Sunday. Washington coming off an impressive win last night, but FanDuel has got you covered. $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Oh, man. I want to start talking about Washington right now, right? I almost started it today. I'm like, can I do 4 shows just about the Washington Commanders? I couldn't. I can't do it. I got to wait. I'm so excited, but I got to wait. Locked on Cardinals, your team every day. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked on Arizona Cardinals. Hit that subscribe button, man. Turn notifications on. Appreciate football. We're already 1/6 of the way through the season. This is when people start to just expect it every week. Football's going to be around forever. And then before you know it, it's week 15. You're like, oh, no. Where did football go? Appreciate it. I sure do. I think my everydayers are smart enough to appreciate football. Can the defense continue? Can Dennis Gardeck be the vision that he's been? Can Zaven Collins make more of an impact, make the impact that he's been making, which is much more impactful than we've seen over a couple seasons from him. Can Kazir White and Mac Wilson continue to be a 1A strength on the defensive side of the ball right behind Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson? Can Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson continue to play very, very smart and violent football, keeping this defense afloat? I want to say yes. I just feel like, listen, and it's hard to even say one negative thing about this guy. And I can't for this year, but I feel like we would have known if Dennis Gardeck was the guy before, in his last couple seasons. Great locker room dude, great leader. Everybody loves him. Great interview, great sack dance. He's got the best sack dance in the NFL. Upside down, raise the roof. Come on. It's a visionary. If this defense holds up, I mean, listen, if the defense holds up the way it has and holding the Lions to 20 points, holding the battered Rams, battering Ram, that's interesting. The incredibly injured Rams to 10 points the week before. If they can do that, Cardinals are making the playoffs. Or they're going to be that, what I've said multiple times, they're going to be that in the hunt team in week 15, week 16, week 17. If they're not in playoff contention and the defense holds teams to 23, 24 points a game, there's a bigger problem. And it's not on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm inclined to say no because we haven't seen it from Dennis Gardeck with such potency before. We haven't seen it from Zaven Collins really ever, save, 4 or 5 games in his career. 6. The stability factor from Kazir White and Mac Wilson. Mac Wilson still TBD. People are free agents for a reason. If he was in perennial Pro Bowler, the way he's kind of playing at this point, maybe not Pro Bowl level, but he's playing at a B+ level, we would have known already. It could definitely be scheme, obviously. It's another very blatantly obvious thing that Nick Rallis and Jonathan Gannon get way more out of the players that are playing defense than people expect. And then Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson are consistent as gravity. So far, so good for Mac Wilson. Like, put it this way. If the Cardinals can put up 80% of what they have on defense and give the other 20% juice to the offense, the Cardinals are making the playoffs. We're starting to see the schedule in a different way now. And naturally, when things actually happen, we don't know what's going to happen with the 49ers. The Cardinals have it in 2 weeks. Christian McCaffrey's in Germany. Deebo Samuel's out. Trent Williams went out injured. Nick Bosa's out. George Kittle's out. And you look at Seattle. Cardinals have them, I think, twice after their bye. It's like, those are going to be 2 much more difficult games than expected. You look at Green Bay. We don't know how healthy Jordan Love is going to be. You look at Chicago. Chicago's a mess. It changes. But when you look at the Cardinals and you look at the defense, you'd be lying to me and to yourself, which, don't lie, it's not good, if through the first 3 weeks you would be as positive about the defense as we are now, in my opinion. And I will count the Rams game for this, because the Arizona Cardinals did what any NFL team needed to do and should do to a team that's as hobbled as the Rams are on offense. 2 out of 5 offensive linemen, starters played. No Cooper Kupp after midway through the second quarter. No Puka Nacua. Tyler Higbee's out with an ACL. Like, the Cardinals did what they needed to do, what any NFL team did. Like, if the Cardinals gave up 30 points to the Rams, we'd be having a different conversation even if the Cardinals won. And they blanked the Lions in the second half. Blanked them. And that's with the Lions, intercepting Kyler Murray in the end zone and getting that extra possession, the Cardinals not getting points. They blanked them. This defense, it's kind of a faceless defense. Like Budda Baker, leader, and you've got Kazir White and Mac Wilson in the middle, but it's like, who cares? Everybody do their job, work as a team. This is what a team defense looks like. Nick Rallis has been great. And listen, you can't expect, this isn't even like a trajectory thing. This isn't even future pacing, things that I've been talking about for the last 18 months. This is right now. This defense is legitimate. And talent-wise, the question marks, and everydayers will know this, but if this is your first listen to Locked On Cardinals, thank you, first of all. Second of all, the question marks going into this season were if/when, not why is this happening, or why wasn't this done, or oh no, why? Like question mark. Let's see what happens there, because if that doesn't happen, the Cardinals, this is who is going to step up and when, not if. That's what it was. Who and when, not if. And you're seeing Mac Wilson immediately make an impact. He and Kazir White could be the linebackers for the future for the Cardinals in the middle of the field. The defensive line is not great. We'll see what happens when Darius Robinson comes back. Super stoked for that. Hopefully he'll be ready to rock week 5 when he's eligible to come off the IR. Can Dennis Gardeck continue? We don't know. Can Zaven Collins continue playing B football? Don't know. The only true constants we have, and Garrett Williams, let's throw him in there. I apologize. I should have discussed him early on. He's played very, very well this year. The only real constants on defense are Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson. The constants, the set and forget guys. Mac Wilson and Kazir White are close, but that's about it. So that's where me saying, can the defense continue this performance? Odds would tell me no. Odds would tell me that if the Cardinals played the Lions 5 times in a row, the Lions would score 30-plus points 3 of those times, 4 of those times maybe, because we don't know yet. But so far, so good. And the Cardinals have been at week 1, what are we going to do? It was Josh Allen. It was week 1. It's a bunch of new faces. It's not an excuse. It's a reason. Look at the rest. Week 1 is a preseason game. And the Cardinals offense let the defense down. Cardinals offense scored 21 points, and there was a DJ Dallas kickoff return for a touchdown. The Cardinals should have won that game. The Cardinals should have beat Detroit. And this isn't like a homer thing. You know me. I wouldn't do you like that. To be very objective here. The Cardinals should have beat Buffalo and Detroit. They had opportunities to do so, and they didn't execute. In those situations, I consider those should have wins. And when you look at the team as a whole, the defense, just like it was last year, doesn't have as much talent, but seems to be through 3 weeks, be more well coached and prepared than the offense. The offense is flying on talent, James Conner, and it's still kind of, where's the pecking order here? It's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. We'll see. Trey McBride is in concussion protocol. We'll see if he plays on Sunday. There's still kind of, it's tough, man. It's a lot of new pieces, a lot of new expectations, okay? The defense is ready to rock. They just don't have the talent there yet. So these are good problems for the Cardinals to have. They just need to iron things out, figure it out, and flourish. My 3 trade wishes for the Cardinals, highlighted tomorrow. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Remember, without you, there is no me. I will talk to you tomorrow.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team